Hello everyone and welcome back to that one playthrough of Kerbal's Space Program. I am Kyle once again, and you find us here seeing the Val-1, stranded on the small moon of Minmus orbiting Kerbin. And that's really only because we decided to take the adventure just slightly further than what was expected originally. This was just meant to go into orbit of Minmus and then return safely, but I decided to be a little more adventurous. We got some extra science and now we're stuck on here because it tipped over, but not all hope is lost, at least in my viewpoint, just yet. I think we may figure out a way to get this thing to pop back up vertically to some extent, but before we get there, you'll have to stick around, because we've got some very important landing to plan with another vehicle. That's right, the Wanderer. We need to get it to a point where its landing location is going to be on the light side of the moon, which may take not too long, maybe a couple of days to get to that point. And then when the orbit crosses it, we're going to try and make a landing in that landing zone target while we can actually see what we're doing. Also, as a side note, when I was changing vehicles here, I noticed that there's a satellite that's just about to be shot out into a solar orbit trajectory. It's about to leave Kerbin's sphere of influence at some point here. I'm assuming it was in orbit of Kerbin, and then as the moon got close to it, kind of disrupted its path, and yeah, now its trajectory, I don't know what direction it's actually going, but it's going either up or down. Either way, it's going to get shot out in some direction. So that satellite, fun times. Enjoy yourself. Okay, yes, so this vehicle that has a little rover attached to it that we're going to attempt to land on the moon, back somewhere back there is where the landing zone actually is. We already passed it. We're in the daylight now. We're going to move forward in time to where the moon moves around in its orbit around Kerbin, because it is tidally locked, meaning that in order for this to get into the sun, the moon's going to have to move all the way kind of around to the other side, more or less, of its orbit, because the sun is over there. So gonna focus on the moon here, and then gonna take time forward quite a bit, and we're just gonna pay attention to this little landing zone. Make sure it gets substantially into the light, but then also if it can kind of get to the point where it lines up with the actual orbit of our current vehicle, that'll make it far easier to try and land. And yeah, we're getting there. I'm going to go ahead and slow it down. We're pretty close. And then now it should only take a couple of orbits. Let's see if we can find out where is the vehicle. Oh, there it is. Coming around the bend here. So I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to let it go a few more times. Get the moon in a little bit better spot. And I think we're approaching a pretty good spot now. All right, so coming around. Let's go stop it there. Now, we're not going to have a ton of time because this orbit is a relatively short, quick, fast orbit. Going to get the vehicle itself lined up with our retrograde trajectory. And then looking at it from the planet map view, we're just going to start to fire up the engine, bring this down. I don't want to necessarily get the landing point of this to you know, this end piece to get right up next to where the actual targets are. But wait till it gets relatively close, right about there, and then we'll let the vehicle kind of begin its descent. We don't have, like I said, any of the safety mechanisms in place as far as Kerbal Engineer goes, so I don't have a way to actually keep track of, you know, how close the ground is. But if I can get to the point... Oh, there's Duna way out in the distance there. That's cool. We're going to get to the point where we can see the landing zone coming up. And actually, I think something I can do, if I'm not mistaken, if I click on one of these and use it as navigation, that should, at the very least up top there, now give me distance to target. So it's around over the crest of these current mountaintops, and right about... yeah, now we can see it coming into view. So, we are moving really fast, and as you can see, 100 kilometers to target. We're going to try and get to as close as we can, but more than anything, safety. Safety is the first priority here. Try not to blow up the vehicle. Try not to crash into the ground. We can see here on the map view, yeah, we are coming in pretty quick. I also know, like, if I power up these engines full power, yeah, it slows me down pretty well. So it's not this engine that I'm worried about, because honestly, I might be able to use this thing a little bit more to line up our trajectory. I actually go this direction a little bit. If the engine's on, I actually have more control too. And then we can actually get the line, yeah, to kind of come up above. And now our trajectory is lined up a little bit better with those spots. Then I'm also going to point the vehicle slightly up so that we can try to keep some of the altitude. I do like how it's giving us an ETA at least of about when we'll get to that, at least over the top of those zones. It's not really an ETA to the ground. Again, I don't know my elevation other than the elevation marker up above, but that doesn't always give you the distance to the actual surface itself without Kerbal Engineer. Okay, I'm gonna bring this a little bit more angled, see if we can get this going even more of a change of direction to get closer to those zones. And there's a lot of fuel in this thing. Yeah, with the amount of fuel in this, I'm not worried about this stage or even the next stage. Again, I'm more worried about velocity relative to crashing into the ground. Okay, that is, I think, getting to be a better trajectory to at least closer to these. I'm gonna ramp this up now. We're gonna try and kill as much lateral velocity as possible. Okay, so now we should be mostly on a descent. Vertical velocity is not quite at 100 meters per second, but it is approaching it quickly. I'm gonna turn the engine on very lightly here so we can kind of go back. Oh, pay attention to where we're going. I'm gonna go back this way a little bit. That was too much. This engine's a bit too powerful for this kind of micro maneuvering. Okay, we're gonna land not quite as good as I thought. I need to stop finessing this as much. Okay, that should be pretty much all lateral displacement gone now. Okay, stop fidgeting with it, Kyle. There's 127 meters per second left in this stage. There's plenty in the next stage to do the full landing. I'm not worried about that. This thing is just very heavy at this point, so it doesn't maneuver super well. And I'm going to use the distance up above to kind of use as my goal for where the ground is, which means I want to actually activate this one, saying about 2,000 meters, give or take. I'm going to start decreasing velocity vertically. Okay, we should be good. This actually is going to have way more than enough delta V. I could honestly probably land it on this tank, but that would be not ideal, because then it'd be impossible to get our rover off, kill out some of the velocity here. Oh, we got a stage. There we go. Okay, that was too much. I forgot I had the stage on a different spot. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to target this one, and I'm going to try and fly the vehicle that direction. We're going to flip it around real quick. Kill some of the lateral speed again. I don't know, did I destroy that other tank? I hope I did. Okay, this has 700 meters per second of delta V. That should be more than enough. Oh yeah, this has got plenty of thrust too. Honestly, I might bring these down just a smidge. Might even need them down further. There we go. That way I can be a little more finite with this. And there you go. You can kind of see the rover on the bottom there now. We got a nice big tank on top. It's a little uneven, which is why when the thrusters fire, it feels like it's a little off balance. We're gonna try and put this down as gently as possible. And that didn't work very well. Too much lateral velocity. Okay. Okay, here's what we gotta do. We gotta hit gas and undock. Okay. Quickly, we're just gonna change to a different vehicle, and we're gonna hit the brakes hard on this. And extend so we can get some control. There we go. Okay, extend that. Alright, that should be fine and situated. Let's go back to the other vehicle here, the Sky Crane. And we're going to try and see if we can roll it up. And then all we're going to do is take it off into the sky. This is not the most orthodox way of doing this. I don't think I have enough delta V to put this thing back in orbit, which is, you know, not a problem. But we're just gonna let it launch. Get it nice and high. Didn't mean to rotate it like I just did. Doesn't have great control. Like, because it's a little off balance. We'll get it to here, kill the engine, and then this is the fun part. Let's see if I can switch. Let's see. Actually, no, we're gonna go like this. Okay. I got a plan here. Okay, I can't switch vehicles because I'm too far away, but if I can get this high enough. Whoa! If I can get it high enough. If I keep it there, will it stay situated? It will. Good. Okay. We're gonna go look at the map. We're gonna let the altitude climb fairly high so that we have a lot of time. This has 4 minutes to apoapsis. Let's get it to about 5 minutes. Actually, let's go a little further. Okay, I'm gonna kill it there. And then we want the Wanderer itself. Where is it? Come on. Really hard to zoom in here. Okay, I can switch to the debris. I'll switch to the debris first. Okay, the debris, actually, this whole thing survived. That's pretty impressive. I don't know. Oh, I can switch. Okay, perfect. I can switch. That's all I was hoping for. Now, what I want to do is I want to log seismic data. Let's keep it. Isn't there a way to, like, activate this toggle display? Like, isn't there a way for the seismic to do a reading and wait for something to crash? I thought there was. Let's review the data. Go ahead and transmit. Hopefully I've got electricity to do that. I'm gonna need to do it in these zones anyways, because that's part of what this contract is. Alright, yeah, I need to allow partials here. Here we go. We're gonna allow partials. Did I do that contract parameter? Gather survey data from, yes, beta on the moon. Cool. So that's actually complete. That's fine. Let's review the data. Go ahead and just reset the experiment. Now, in theory, where is, okay, there is the Wanderer kind of, you know, top section. I'm gonna speed up time until this thing comes down and crashes. Now, in theory, I'm pretty sure if it crashes, we should pick up the seismic reading. I think that's how it works. No, maybe not. I guess not. Okay, well, apparently I was wrong about that. I thought there was a way to do that. Maybe I need to unlock something on the technology tree, which could be the case. So I got the one done, which means I think that spot disappeared. So I need to go to wherever the next one of these is close by. This one is 1,352 meters. This one is 2,000 meters. And this one is 13. Okay, so this one and this one are closer. It's just hard to tell from this perspective. So what I'm going to do is, doesn't matter which one, I'm going to set that as my destination. And then over here I've got Bon Voyage, which is a nifty little mod. Let's see, show control panel. And what I want to do is set the current target as its destination. Select a valid target. Current target. Select a valid target. This is a valid target, isn't it? Okay, there we go. Current waypoint. That's what it was. So current waypoint, and then I'm just going to say go. Switch to another vessel is seen to start moving. Okay, perfect. So I have set the rover to go to that location. So now all I need to do is leave, and this mod does the hard work of driving the rover to the target. Okay, and then now back at the KSC, if we look at Bon Voyage, we can see the Wanderer probe. It is moving. It's on the moon. We can see exactly how fast it's going, 0.7 meters per second, and the distance to target is 1.31 kilometers. And then, as you let time pass, you can see the distance to target begins to go down. And I'm not even playing this at a very high speed, so our rover is clearly driving at pretty much that speed consistently. So I don't know if it plays into factors like the height of land, if it has to go uphill, downhill, cross over water, what all that stuff is, but yeah, essentially it's going to be there relatively quick, but we can just let that go by itself. Okay, and then as you can see here, with a little bit of time warping and then returning to the vehicle, we are standing right on top of that location we had set as the goal. So we can now do our seismic data, which is all we have to do for the contract. I just realized I don't even have to transmit it, which is interesting. And so I'll just reset it, and for each one of these we're collecting 22,000 in revenue, which is pretty substantial. Alright, I'm gonna, let's see, what direction is this driving? Let's go ahead and try and steer it. We'll do a little bit of manual control. It's sliding around like it's on ice. Wait a second. Did I get both of those locations by just doing that? I've only got one left to go to. And if this is the last one, then I guess I just did 2 at once? Yeah, apparently according to the contracts, I've done 3 of them. So I think those last 2 that it just showed on here, I thought it was the first one and the second one and I had 2 to go, but apparently those 2 were literally just the 2 that happened to be close enough together that it allowed me to do it. I'm gonna go ahead and just drive this manually because we're moving way faster than what the speed was when I had it do automated. Oh, it does steer kind of like it's on ice, which is a little unfortunate. But we'll keep moving forward here. Now you'll notice the rocks are not actually physical objects. I might change this because it is a setting I can adjust. So like these big rocks in front of me, you'd want to avoid them. But if you just decide to drive through these, the parallax mod, they don't actually exist, but you can make that an actual thing in the settings. So I haven't decided if I'm gonna do that because it makes it way easier to drive rovers as if it's just regular KSP. But it would be cool to make that a little bit more of an obstacle. This rover might become fairly obsolete if that's the case because it doesn't exactly have great off-road capabilities like you would imagine something a little bit bigger would. So you clearly have to kind of drive around the rocks if that were the case. But we'll keep that in mind maybe for a future project. Future missions to other planets and the moon and Minmus themselves, maybe to add an extra challenge. Oh, and it actually says we're entering the location even though we're still got about 400 meters to go. So I'm just gonna hit the brakes and this should start slowing down maybe when it decides. We'll do a seismic data log. Go ahead and just hold on to that, and that should be the end of that contract. So the parameter, another 22,000, 3 science on top, 2 reputation as well, and then the full contract, 145,000 in funds, which is good because now we have well over 1 million funds. We can actually upgrade our R&D building finally. Now what I would like to do, since this thing is here and it has some other modules on it to do science, I don't know if I've done mystery goo. I have from here, so let's reset that. I don't want to do any of the science I've done previously. That just obviously makes no sense. I don't want to waste the mystery goo. So, if I bring up our science tracking mod, now I want to do mystery goo, but I want to do it in a biome that I have not done before on the moon. Mystery goo landed on moon's lowlands, midlands, highlands. We've done mystery goo on just the lowlands and the highlands. So we need to do the midlands, mountains, poles, polar craters, exotic craters, rare craters, Veronia craters, notable craters. Let's see if we can find out where there is, I don't know, some midlands or something nearby. All right. So I got the biome map of the moon here. We're in the lowlands, pretty substantially in the middle of the lowlands. I want to go, what is this? I want to go midlands. There's a midlands not that far. Okay, we've created the waypoint. I'm figuring it out, guys. I'm figuring it out. Okay. I want to select that. Okay, now that is selected, I want to go Bon Voyage, and then we're just going to return to the Space Center, and this should go. Okay, and then just like we would hope, 237 kilometers to get to the destination. It is currently moving. It's having a good grand old time. It's going to take it probably a very long time to get there. But that is okay, it will do that on its own and we don't have to worry about driving our little probe. Now, let's think about the $1.1 million we've got now. So if I go to R&D, that's to 902,000. I think because it's putting a block on just about everything, that is the investment we need to make. And then now we can see research and development, it's gonna be upgraded in 6 days. I think I might as well just warp to that, maybe? And in that time frame, I imagine our probe will be at the location we want it to be at to do some science. But, there is something we can do before that point comes to be. We can return to the Val 1 and try and figure out what the heck we're going to do with this thing. If I try to use any of the controls just with SAS to kind of rotate the vehicle or pull up or down or side to side, I can sort of get it to subtly move sideways, as you can barely tell. I can dip it down like that a little bit. I can't pull it up though very well. If I turn RCS on, now I don't have a lot of RCS to use. Yeah, that's just gonna burn through that. So that doesn't do me much good to try and utilize that. Now, I could fire up the engine. If I fire up the engine I might be able to get enough lift. Now I was hoping, unfortunately this is pointed down, I was hoping if I could rotate it, I could get it to point up the slope, and then I could kind of use the slope to give me some lift. Because this thing obviously doesn't have wheels, it's going to make it challenging. Now another thing I could try is I could close this, and then from here, well, I should probably, well, I don't think the antennae are going to break necessarily. I can't rotate it very well. Maybe RCS can rotate. Kinda. These aren't very strong RCS thrusters. If I pop this open though, it does bounce a little bit. I don't want it to go that way. Go ahead and turn RCS off. So you see, we can move it a little bit. Part of the problem is we had a lot of control when we had actual power, as well as you know, the reaction wheel control in the main core cockpit. However, since that broke, thanks to the lovely mods we have installed, and also, why are you flickering so much? That's very annoying. This has plenty of fuel. Fuel is not the problem here. Power is not necessarily the problem either. It's more so if I turn the engine on, it will just kind of pop forward like this. Now I could try to tilt this up, but then it's still, friction is still forcing it to go down. And I'm pretty sure gimbal is, yes, gimbal's at 100%. So really what we need to try and do is figure out if we can get it pointed up this slope. I'm not sure how hard that's going to be. Oh look, we've got a life support water leak as well. That was in one of the hex containers, so those are still failing considerably high rates. Bounce, 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 bounce. We got some momentum. Not that it really helps us in the whole pointing up category of life. Okay, so I've managed to roll down the hill a little bit to some of the flatter sections. I don't know if I'll be able to like rotate this anymore though, because the RCS is not really strong enough to do that. Well, maybe it is. It's doing a little bit, but I'm gonna run out of RCS if I do that. So here becomes the big question. Do I risk it for the biscuit and turn the engine on and just see if I can get this thing to pop off the ground somehow? Or actually, I know. What if I bring the thrust way down and then use the engine gimbal to try and steer? Yeah, that might work. Or it might just drive me into the ground. I don't know. Okay, let's bring it up a little higher. We're going to do this safely in small increments. Okay. We're getting somewhere. Yes. Yes. Okay. We are more or less pointed towards the hill now. This is a terribly fantastic, amazing, horrible idea, and I love everything about it. I do have a Kerbal engineer on here too. I am curious, with my thrust all the way down right now, is the 3.6 thrust to weight ratio, that is relative to what the actual thrust limiter is set to. Okay, so let's not make it so it's so high. I like 3.0, that's pretty good. I'm not sure trajectory-wise where I'm pointed. I think I actually need to go that direction for orbit. Could be wrong though. This is not a time to be picky, Kyle. You just gotta go for it. Okay, ready, set, launch, and we need to go... Nope, that's the wrong way. That's the wrong way. Oh, wait. We might be onto something. We're onto something. We're in the air. Okay, that was not anywhere near what I had planned to do. But, okay, I think I need to go this way. So we'll launch this way, as one does. And then we're gonna bring this up. We're gonna go into the map view real quick. Quickity quackity. Yes, we're going the right direction. We somehow managed to pull off some crazy shenanigans. And crazy shenanigans is the name of the game when you play KSP sometimes. Okay. Let's just maximum thrust this on a horizontal trajectory. We should have plenty of height. We should be... Actually, we might be already in orbit. Oh, no, but we're pretty good. Okay. Well, that was pleasantly unexpected. I'll just add a maneuver note here, because apparently I am the greatest person to ever play this game. Well, look at that. I'm a professional. I told you we'd get it off the ground and back into orbit. That was kind of fun and exciting and terrifying at the same time. And just a quick, easy time warp to get up to this maneuver node. Should be pretty easy. It says it's only going to be a 2-second burn, which is awesome. And fire, and boom, we're in orbit. Camera shifts to let us know. Go ahead and look at the map, nice and comfortably there. And then now, actually, we're pretty close to where we need to fire the engines to return to Kerbin. It's like pretty much right now, I think. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, we're just, forget the maneuver node. We're literally just gonna go prograde. All right, and then we're just gonna burn full throttle, prograde here. I'm gonna zoom out. And yep, we should see that start to shrink in here. And then when this gets to a good comfortable altitude above Kerbin on its low pass. Oh, that was too fast. That was too far. Okay, flip it back around. And like I said, we have plenty of delta V. There's still 600 plus delta V when you think about the grand scheme of things, where I was wondering if I was going to be able to land and take off. I knew I had plenty. This is just some finite movements now, so let's bring the engine thrust way down again. Let's bring it to, I'm going to bring it to like 45 kilometers, right about there-ish. Should be good. Okay. Success. And I think, no, these are all O-scraps. So yeah, some of the hex cans leaked again. This one is out of oxygen. This one is out of water. Our main cabin is out of oxygen, electric charge. So there's a lot of failures on this, but that's why we do these tests, to make sure that, one, we can make them better in the future, and two, we can put more fail-safes. So whether that's more hex cans, I don't know, or more batteries probably would be a good idea as well, because this doesn't have a lot of electrical charge. All right, so this should be pretty easy from this point on. We're going to speed up time. We're going to leave the sphere of influence of Minmus. That'll happen now, and then we begin the fun and exciting trajectory back toward Kerbin. We're going to keep this going relatively fast. I'm going to keep my eye on it, because if I don't pay attention, then I will come crashing down into a fiery explosion. Now, the other thing as this vehicle begins its final approach back to the planet to enter the atmosphere is at the top left here, you can see the actual time of the entire mission has been 32 days, 10 hours. It's counting up very quickly in the minutes because time warp is still enabled. But that's important to know how long it's taken, because that's going to give us a good idea of how long the life support is going to have to last when we actually have a Kerbal on board. I believe I set this up with, I think it was like 32 or 36 days. I can't remember. Obviously none of it's being used right now because there's no one on board, but that means we'll probably want to have, I don't know, I would think plus 25% of whatever it took us to do the mission. So if it was a 32-day mission with no one on board, oh, and now the Probodobodyne has short-circuited. Does that mean I've lost control? No, the vehicle still moves. What does a short circuit mean? Oh, okay, yeah. Short circuit then is what happens when there's no power, which means the only electric charge is being stored in the one single battery we have left. Good to know. I don't know if it's the duration of the mission that's causing this, because 32 days is quite a long time. Of course, we've got satellites that have been around longer, but we haven't really been following them. Anyways, if this mission lasted 32 days, I would think we'd want to have anywhere from 40 to 45 days of life support just to be really, really safe in case something happens in the mission that causes us to have to do another orbit of some kind before we can make contact with the atmosphere of Kerbin, whatever it might be. But we will do those calculations a little bit later. Okay, we've got a little bit of time before we actually hit the atmosphere still. I am going to fire up the engine. We're going to put it to full retrograde, full thrust, and just try to burn off some speed here as much as possible. Not that we need to, but it's a good, useful thing to do. We're just going to make the vehicle a little bit lighter. All right, and then really quickly, I also want to check to see if there's any science I can happen to do. Does not look like it, so no worries. This is the part where we say goodbye to the bottom half of this vehicle, though. So we're going to hit the atmosphere here momentarily. We'll burn off as much fuel as possible, as I said. And because I don't have any control, once this thing disconnects, because again, we lost all of the reaction wheel control in our main probe, I'm going to have to keep it pointed pretty much retrograde as much as possible before we disconnect. I won't be able to like disconnect the bottom half of the vehicle sideways to keep it out from potentially running into it later. I will put it at a slight angle, so hopefully they end up on 2 separate trajectories. Should be relatively safe. The first thing that's going to stage is going to be the parachutes here. Now what I would need to do is, this is where things are going to get tricky. I need to get this. I want pressure to be a little bit higher on each of these because I'm actually going to deploy them in space right now. So I'm deploying that, and then we're going to deploy these a little bit lower, deploy them. Because as soon as I disconnect this, I don't have any antenna on this, meaning that realistically, I need to get to, where is the thing? Why do I not have this staged? Decouple. Uh-oh. Is it going separate? It is. Okay, good. We're at different velocities. That's all I needed. Now, more than anything, I just want to check the ablator on this thing, because if the ablator does fantastic, then we know that the vehicle in of itself is successful. The rest of it can blow up, and yes, separate trajectories. That's exactly what I was hoping would happen. The reason I had to deploy the parachutes early is because, as I said, I don't know if I can actually control them once I lost all that other stuff. It could be that that's not the case. I don't know. Deploy when safe. I think it should be okay. And ablator-wise, so yeah, we were coming in at somewhere in the high 4,000s, 5,000 meters per second. I don't know. I didn't actually check when we hit the atmosphere. So the ablator is doing quite a bit already compared to normal KSP. I'm going to keep that there, just so everyone can keep an eye on it nice and easily. Yeah, this is much, much safer than those other re-entry vehicles that obviously didn't have the capability to withstand this, and we're still moving at 2.5 kilometers per second. That is some insane speed right now. And if this vehicle does just fine coming from Minmus, then it should be A-OK, obviously coming from the moon. There we go. Speeds dropped considerably. We are in the not even the thickest part of the atmosphere yet, which is good. I think I might be able to still control these parachutes. Let's see. Yeah, I can still fluctuate the pressure on them. So, nope, I can't. I was wrong. I thought I could, but I can't. All right, well, it is safe for the drogue chute. The other ones are going to go much later. As soon as we reach whatever the air pressure is equivalent to 0.38 atmospheres, it should deploy. At least that's my understanding of what those numbers mean. I'm hoping it goes soon, because I'm starting to get a little bit worried. We're below 10,000 meters. Come on. Come on. Still nothing. Oh, there it goes. Okay, good. It worked. That was the drogue, and then... Oh, actually, one of the side chutes went first. That was unexpected. And also, we're finding more ice caps, more icebergs floating around in random spots on Kerbin. Where are we at? Are we near the equator again? Because I swear. Yeah, we're near the equator. Apparently on Kerbin, there's lots of icebergs at the equator. These are things we can't explain. The science of Kerbin's atmosphere and, you know, climate, not to be trifled with. Clearly more complex than that of Earth. Alright, well, I think it's safe to say that this thing's going to hit the surface fairly comfortably. Much, much better than the last vehicle that we tried to return with. This obviously has no Kerbals on board, but we now know it can be safely rated to allow crew on board, which I am excited for, which means, people, in the not-so-distant future, perhaps even the next episode, we might be sending a Kerbal to finally orbit the moon and return safely, which is, of course, a big contract we have in place. So if we can get that contract completed, it will also, in and of itself, be worth a lot of cash. And just to prove that it did get back safely, there is a nice little splashdown in the ocean. The vehicle is ready to be recovered now. Ooh, there's some choppy waters here. And the total time of the mission, 32 days, 11 hours, 40 minutes, almost 33 days realistically, because JNSQ Kerbin runs off of a 12-hour clock. So we're going to go ahead and recover this, and because this vehicle came all the way from the surface of Minmus, we're actually getting an additional 30 science out of that, which is spectacular, bringing us to 340. The funds we're recovering, 959 just for all the parts involved. We have a lot more than what I thought we had after spending that $1 million, and if I had to guess, it is because world's first milestones, yes. So, escape the gravitational influence of Minmus. We have returned home from the surface of Minmus, we have returned home from a flyby of Minmus, and we've returned home from orbit of Minmus. All of those things all in one mission that really I only planned to do the orbit of Minmus in return, so we actually got a little bit extra by landing and coming back. Always fun to try and do little quirky things like that when you don't expect it out of a mission. But with that being said, we're at 782,000, meaning that if you add pretty much close to $1 million, because we started with close to 200k before we got that first influx of cash, this mission in of itself has made about 1.6 million in funds, which is absolutely ludicrous. Now that's partially because of the things in the administration building we have active that are giving us bonuses specifically for Minmus right now, but that's exactly why I selected that. Now that doesn't mean we're going to get that much money every time we go to Minmus, obviously, but there's a lot of science to be had there for the future. And with that being said, we have 340 science to use. Now, we have to wait for this to be upgraded, it looks like. And that's going to take approximately 6 hours, which is not that bad. Let's go ahead and time warp. Yes, and with that upgrade finally completed with a little time warping, each one of these is 160 science to unlock. I don't know if there's any that are potentially less. Subsonic flight is 90, but I don't want that yet. Yeah, all these are 160, which is a slight bummer. No, let's see, that'd be 320 for 2. So yeah, we can do 2, which is excellent. Yeah, first and foremost, I'm gonna go for heavier rocketry. Now, the reason for this being is right now to get large vehicles off the ground, I'm having to strap a ton of engines and some extra boosters to get something reasonably sized like we just launched into orbit to send it to the moon, Minmus, blah, 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 blah. This is going to give us some substantially stronger engines. For comparison, the Kodiak that we're using as a main thruster occasionally, 260 kilonewtons of thrust. The Walrus engine, if we upgrade into this next tier, is 750 kilonewtons of thrust. Literally, like, what is that? 3 times as much power. Plus there's some additional bigger boosters. There's the Skipper, which is kind of a good secondary stage engine if you're doing, like, say, a 3 or 4 stage to orbit, depending on how big your rocket is. So we're definitely doing this first, because if we can get bigger engines, that means less engines have to be used, meaning that we can save some weight and space overall. And if we save weight and space overall, we can actually put not just bigger things into orbit, but actually have bigger upper stages. I'm really tempted to do anything that has science, because if you get something with science, and I spend the science to get the science, then I'm going to get more science to be able to spend more science to get more other things. Yeah, that makes sense. Plus it's got additional probe cores and a resolution imager, whatever that is, but I want one. Yeah, we're gonna go precision engineering so we get additional science. Okay, so those things are currently gonna be researching. That's fine. 80 days away. That's fine and dandy. So we gotta wait a while for those. Now I could upgrade the actual rate at which we research, and if I did that, then that would actually get those quicker. I don't need to quite yet, maybe? No, it's tempting. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I build vehicles fast enough, so we'll go like that and add that. Because now that means, and now that means they're down to 40 days until they're completed. And then the other one, let's go ahead and add a point into a third build rate for the actual VAB. So now if I have 3 rockets building or under construction, they'll all be building at once. And then the 4th one will have to kind of sit in tiers. I haven't been building 3 at a time, but I have been building 2 at a time. So if I have 2 building and I decide to throw another one in there, at least it'll start doing something, even if that's very slow. And then lastly, before I leave you for today, you'll notice that our little probe here, our little rover, is actually awaiting sunlight. It says because we've gone to the dark side of the moon, he has no way to charge his little batteries on his solar panels, so he's actually not moving. And he won't move until he comes back around to the other side, which, in order to get the moon to that point, is going to take a couple of days. I'm not going to worry about fast forwarding that. We'll do other projects while we wait for that vehicle to get to its destination. And until then, I'm Kyle. This has been that one playthrough of Kerbal Space Program, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful day.